Some fairly big changes are happening right now to the US housing market based on this new report from Redfin just announced on January 23rd. Let's go ahead and dive in because there's a lot to share and kind of like to uncover in this video. It says at the top here, high housing payments are slowing home sales, but buyers could get relief soon. We'll talk about what that relief is. It says the median U.S. monthly housing payment is just under $2,700 per month. That's based on asking prices today on a national level, and of course, mortgage rates as well. That payment of $2,686 per month is the highest level in nearly 7 months for the 4 weeks ended January 19th. Housing costs, of course, are high due to elevated prices and, of course, mortgage rates as well. High housing costs are one factor keeping many would-be home buyers on the sidelines. So please leave me a comment below. Are you guys looking to buy a house, but are you guys waiting for home prices to fall? Please leave me a comment below. So pending home sales are actually down by 10.1% year over year. That's the biggest decrease in more than 1 year. So for example, looking at the report posted 1 month ago, pending home sales, if I can find it, only decreased by 3.4% year over year. Now it's down by 10.1%. Also, Redfin's Home Buyer Demand Index, this is an index they have which measures the amount of real estate showings and other home buying activity that they are getting from their agents, from their clients, I should say, is near its lowest level since June last year. Also, houses are taking longer to sell. The average home is selling in 52 days, according to Redfin, the longest time in about 2 years. Let's also talk about some relief that could be coming soon as well, because mortgage rates have been coming down as well after a softer than expected CPI report, which of course is the Consumer Price Index, a measure of prices in which everyday consumers pay for goods and services nationwide. That came in softer than expected last week. And Redfin's economists expect rates to decrease more if President Trump continues to signal he'll be less aggressive on tariffs than previously expected. And sale price increases may be losing momentum because the increase year over year up by 5% is the smallest increase since October last year. All right, that was a lot to unpack. Let's first talk about mortgage rates because we're seeing quite some volatility there. So looking at the average rate, according to the Mortgage News Daily, these are people looking to buy their primary residence. In other words, they're not investors and they're putting a hefty down payment down. And of course, they have a high credit score as well. Looking at the national average based on their survey for January 22nd, it's at 7.08%. It has been paid around 7% for quite some time, but it is down from the 7.26% rate we saw about 1 week ago. Rates are also higher compared to 12 months ago as well, because 1 year ago, we're sitting around 6.9%. However, looking at weekly rates, according to Freddie Mac, this is a little bit outdated. So 1 week ago, we're at 7.04%. But based on a new report announced on January 23rd, the average 30-year fixed rate actually decreased to 6.96%. According to their chief economist, he said the following. After crossing the 7% mark last week, the average 30-year fixed rate mortgage rate saw its first decrease in 6 weeks. While affordability challenges remain, of course, this is welcome news for potential homebuyers as reflected in the corresponding uptick in purchase applications, which I'll share with you guys here in a little bit. So 1 year ago at this time, the average rate was at nearly 6.7%. So speaking of applications to buy houses, here is the latest we have from the Mortgage Bankers Association, which was posted on January 22nd. This covers the week ended January 17th this year. Let's first have a look at the refi index, which of course means the amount of people who are applying for a refi for their houses. That decreased by 3% compared to the previous week, but it was up by a whopping 42% compared to the same week 1 year ago. So I would say it's a little bit hard to look at this because this is a giant increase, right? We're talking about a giant increase based on a very low level of activity for people doing a refi. However, it's pretty interesting to see that refinancing are still increasing quite a bit, given the fact that we have higher rates today than they were 1 year ago, right? So I could potentially hear that we could see more people who are refinancing and taking on a higher rate because they're doing cash out refis to afford or to have money to live by, right? So anyways, let's talk about the purchase index, which of course is a measure of people who are submitting applications to buy houses using loans. That actually increased by only 1% last week, but it's also 2% higher compared to the same time frame 1 year ago. And according to the MBA's chief economist, he said the following: mortgage rates remained near 7%, a key psychological level, which likely continues to slow pace of activity for both refis and purchases. Meanwhile, out of all the applications to apply for a loan, 40% came from people who want to do a refi. Of course, 60% are doing purchases. That's down from the 42.7% we saw 1 week ago. Also, we're seeing a low level of activity for people who want to apply for a loan using an adjustable rate mortgage, which of course is good because that share is only at 5.5%. I've been following this weekly update from the MBA for several years now. They report it every Wednesday morning. And if my memory serves me correct here, I think the share of ARM activity really peaked at around 12% about 2 years ago, and the low level of activity was around 3%. So we're at the lower end of the spectrum over the past couple of years. All right, going back to Redfin's article, it says here regarding their index, it increased by 7% compared to 1 year ago, but up only slightly from 1 week ago. Meanwhile, touring activity, this is from showingtime.com, which some, not all, some agents use in order to tour houses with their clients. That was up by 5.3% compared to the start this year. At this time last year, it was essentially flat. Therefore, compared to the start of the year, we're seeing more activity of real estate agents right now. But again, this has not translated to more pending home sales because, of course, pendings are down by 10% year over year. Also, people searching for home for sale on Google, that was up by a whopping 24% from 1 month ago, but it is essentially flat or unchanged from about 12 months ago. All right, let's talk about here home prices. This is for the 4 weeks ended January 19th, and they cover 400 plus US metros, and their data goes back to 2015. So the median asking price actually increased by 5% year over year. We're at essentially, I don't know what happened there, sorry. We're essentially right now at $378,000, but the 5% gain year over year is the smallest since October last year. So home prices still increasing, but increasing at a slower pace. I've been talking about this for several months now. In regards to home prices, have a look at how each of the 50 biggest cities fares. And I want to share one thing too regarding San Francisco here as well. So looking at the 50 biggest cities, there's some very, very big differences here. Look at the top spot, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, up by 16.9% year over year. In contrast, San Francisco is down by 5.9%. I want to talk about that here in a little bit. But after Milwaukee is Pittsburgh, Newark, New Jersey, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, up by 12%. Anaheim's up by 11.5%. So it decreased in 5 metros, which of course means that 45 of the 50 biggest cities reported gains, right? One thing you guys should definitely be aware of though, is that now we're down in 5 metros, but 1 month ago, according to Redfin, there was not a single metro that was down year over year. So all 50 metros were up. Now we have 5 that are down. Those are San Francisco, Austin, Texas, Tampa, Florida, Denver, and San Antonio. Now this one right here really caught my attention because I haven't seen San Francisco in the negative spot or the negative territory here in quite some time. And that's a big decrease, right? Because let me actually look at the report 1 month ago. Like I said, every single metro was up year over year. So here's something you guys should be aware of. And this is very, very important if you guys want to figure out what's happening in your neck of the woods or an area you want to buy or sell a house, right? Because the data can be a little bit hard to analyze here. One could look at this and say a decrease of 5.9%. Oh my gosh, the San Francisco housing market is absolutely crashing, right? Because a decrease of 5.9% in one single month means that if you extrapolate that over the next 12 months, that would mean that home prices are going to crater 71%. I mean, I'm just laughing because it's not accurate to extrapolate 1 month of data and say this is what's going to happen over the next 12 months, right? On top of that, This is something super important. Look at this. On a national level, this is according to Redfin Status Center. Here's the number of houses that sold, right? Let's look at just this year. So this year, right now, this is nationwide, there was 45,705 closed home sales for the 4 weeks ended January 19th. So obviously a giant sample size. So looking at the median sold price, let's just look at the past couple of years, 23 compared to 24. You can see here that here's 24 at the top, of course, in blue is last year. So last year, the median sold price was up in the range of 3 to 6% every single week. I believe every single week, more or less all year, right? So it was up by around 3 to about 6%. We're not seeing like this giant, I don't know, going up and down crazy. Because it's a large sample size, in general, you don't see big fluctuations in data week over week. Now, if we were to look at San Francisco, and you can look at this at any city you guys want to, learn about what's going on in the market there. Look at San Francisco. You can see here the variations vary quite a bit, and that's because of this right here. Let's look at the end of 24, right? There was only 158 houses that sold, and it's been around 150 to about 300, let's say. Actually kind of maxed out around 227. So what I'm getting at is that the number of houses that sold in San Francisco is at relatively low levels, right? Let's look at 25, and I'm going to wrap this up because I want to share this. This is really important. Look at this. This over the past 4 weeks, there was only 115 houses. I don't know how there's 15.21. Anyways, it's a 4-week rolling average, right? So only 115 houses sold over the previous 1 month. Whereas nationally, we're at, what was it, 45,000? So we have a really low sample size. So looking at the median sold price in San Francisco over the past 2 years, you can see how wild these fluctuations are. The end of the year last year up by 7%, but just a few weeks prior to that, it was only up by 1%. And let's look at here as well. Back in June, July, it was up by 4%. And then 3 weeks prior to that, it was up by 9%. And then about 1 month later, or 1 month earlier than that, it was up by 4%. So the fluctuations can vary quite a bit in areas that have a lack of houses for sale or lack of activity because due to the mix in sales, right? If you have 100 home sales and you had 10 of them sold for, let's say over $10 million, far higher than the median sold price, that's obviously going to impact the overall numbers that month. So I hope that makes sense. Definitely have a look at that for areas in which you're looking to kind of analyze the data because, small sample sizes, you have big fluctuations or can have big fluctuations in their data. And this is kind of true for anything that you're trying to analyze. A small sample size will have wild variations. This does not mean that the housing market is crashing in San Francisco. All right, moving on. Let's talk about pending home sales, new listings, active listings, and of course, the month supply. Also, the average monthly housing payment, again, that's up by 7.6%, the highest level since June. So of course, a lack of housing affordability, which is keeping pending home sales at low levels, down 10%, the biggest decrease since October of 2023. Meanwhile, new listings decreased by 2.9%, and active listings only increased by 8.8%. That's the smallest year-over-year increase in nearly 1 year. So normally, when you have a big decrease in pending home sales, that causes inventory to increase as well, right? Remember the bathtub analogy? A bathtub, I think the water going into the bathtub is new supply or new listings. The water level is inventory levels, the amount of houses for sale. And of course, the drain is pending home sales or closed home sales. So if you guys want to see the water level or inventory to absolutely skyrocket, you need to see a lot of activity, a lot of water going into the bathtub, and a big increase in new listings. And on top of that, if you want to make it really crazy, plug up the hole. In other words, a low level of sales, a huge increase of new supply in the market, and of course, inventory rises greatly, right? That inventory would rise greatly, right? But what we're seeing right now is the plug of the bathtub is kind of getting clogged up, but we're not seeing a lot of new supply in the market, and therefore the level of the water or inventory levels is remaining at low levels, only up by 8.8% year over year. All right, let's have a look at Redfin's data center regarding this because new supply in the market, again, decreased by 2.9%. It is higher compared to 2023 in blue, but obviously lower than 2022. One thing regarding Redfin's data center, they're no longer showing pre-COVID levels. I would love if they included 2019, for example, to see how these numbers compare. Looking at Realtor.com though, actually just looked this up, for December, new listings were a little bit higher. I think it was up by 0.2% compared to last year. It's also higher compared to 2022. But the levels of new listings hitting the market in December last year were actually lower than 2017, 18, 19, and 2020. So the reason why I mention this is that even though new supply in the market is down by 2.9%, it's also way lower compared to pre-pandemic levels as well, which of course is keeping inventory kind of in check, right? However, the decrease in pending home sales is putting upward pressure on inventory levels because that decreased by 10.1%, the lowest level in several years at least. So obviously pending home sales is a future indication of closed home sales, but looking at closed home sales, a lagging indicator, over the past 4 weeks, that rose by 7.8%. All right, looking at active listings, that also increased as well. It's up by 8.6%, the highest level in about 3 years, at least the past 3 years during the same time frame. However, a gain of 8.6% is the lowest year-over-year increase going all the way back until going. I think it's back in March, 8.76%, more or less right there. Back in the 4 weeks ended February 25th of 2024. Now here's something also to keep in mind as well. We've been reporting, all year last year, which is the orange line there, that inventory was higher compared to the past several years and end the year up by 13%. However, despite this increase up by 13%, home prices still increased by about 5%. All right, going back to this report from Redfin, let's have a look at pending home sales. There was only one metro that increased year over year. That was Portland, Oregon, up by 7.5%, whereas 49 of the 50 biggest cities reported a decrease, and huge decreases here. Detroit, Michigan, down by 28%, Atlanta down by 21%, Miami down by 20%, Warren, Michigan also down by 20%, and Houston, Texas down by nearly 17%. This, by the way, is quite a bit different compared to 1 month ago. Have a look at Redfin's report 1 month ago. There was actually 12 metros that reported gains regarding pending home sales. Now there's only one, which is Portland, Oregon. In regards to new supply in the market, Phoenix, Arizona led the nation up by 15.2. Then we have San Jose, California, Seattle, Sacramento, where I live and work as a real estate agent here, up by 9.3%, and Portland, Oregon up by 8.3%. In contrast, New York, New Jersey, tanked there. If anyone knows what's going on there, let us know. Down 37%. Then we have Detroit, San Antonio, Warren, Michigan, and Atlanta, Georgia. There was also only 18 metros of the 50 biggest ones that reported gains year over year. This also means that actually a decrease in 32. So 32 of the 50 biggest cities reported a decrease in new supply in the market. So therefore, 64% of those metros are down year over year. Can you imagine a scenario in which we're seeing a huge influx of new supply in the market, which again would cause the bathtub level or the inventory levels to rise greatly? But again, we're seeing kind of this balancing effect where this decrease in pending home sales is causing the water level to increase a bit. But again, we're seeing a lack of new supply in the market, and therefore that's causing downward pressure on inventory. So more or less kind of counterbalancing each other out right now, making it a little bit hard to kind of analyze the data. Anyways, so the month supply is at 5 months, which is this green line above, which is this year. In blue is what happened last year. Orange is 2023, and here's 2022. Now look at the big difference here. January 22, obviously that was when we had 3.3% rates. The month supply was about 1.8 months. I believe that was very close, if not the all-time record low. Then this year, we started the year at around 4.25%. So the month supply at 5 months is at least a 3-year high during the same time frame right now. It is normal, though, to see the month supply peak around late January, early February, should. So we should see the months supply decrease after that time frame. And lastly, let's have a look at the average sale price to final list price ratio. That's at 98.1%, which means over the past 4 weeks, for all the houses that did sell, they sold for 1.9 percentage points less than the seller's final list price. That is actually a little bit lower than last year, but higher than the same time frame in 2023. Back then, that ratio was just under 98%. And now it's at 98.1%. With that said, please hit the like button if you got any value out of today's video. Of course, consider subscribing as well. I post frequent housing market updates. I try to do my best to share unbiased opinions regarding what's happening in the housing market. So hope you guys agree with that. Also, if you guys want a real estate agent referral, then check out my website, which is realestateteamfinder.com, or reach out to me if you're looking to buy or sell a house in the greater Sacramento area. Of course, I love making these videos. So thank you so much for watching today's video. I appreciate it so much, and have an amazing day. We'll see you in the next video.